Hey everyone, my name is Ben Cesarski, and typically on this channel, I'm posting about marathon training and a lot of running content. But this past week, I had probably the coolest and most insane and most challenging experience of my life, even harder than the 5 marathons I've ran, and that was summiting Pico de Orizaba in Mexico, the tallest volcano in North America, the 3rd highest peak in North America at 18,500 feet, so just north of 6,000 meters. So right now I'm gonna show a couple of my favorite clips from this hike. It was absolutely insane. And I think whether you're into mountaineering already, or if you run marathons, if you're into fitness at all, or if you love nature, anything like that, I think these type of trips are so cool. It's the first one I've done. It was such a great experience. So I can't wait to share it with you. I've edited together some of my favorite clips that I'll be looking at here. I'm gonna talk through it of what I experienced, what steps you might need to take to do this type of trip, and just walk through what I went through because it was truly an incredible experience, and I think that everybody should do something like this, in my opinion. Without further ado, let's jump into the clips. All right, so I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, so that's my apartment there, my girlfriend, and my friend David that I did this hike with. So if you ever see him or anybody in this video throwing up the hang loose, that's David. So this is us in the Charlotte airport. We just brought a bag each because we knew this was the pack that we would need to take on the volcano. And we flew direct to Mexico City, so it was super nice to be able to do that from Charlotte. Pretty affordable too, at only about $500 round trip. And the goal was to really acclimate and have our body get used to this height. So in North Carolina, typically we're around sea level at just about 0 feet, and the highest peak is Mount Mitchell at about 6,000 feet. So we did hike that the weekend before, and then we flew to Mexico, and Mexico City is actually at 7,500 feet. And so we knew we'd be able to acclimate a bit more. So what you just saw there, that was the hostel that David and I stayed at. It was super nice, and this kind of began a day or two in Mexico City where we could start our altitude acclimatization. And we used that chance just to explore Mexico City. So the hostel offered a couple of really cool experiences with the group. We walked around the city center, saw some amazing things there, and here, that's me trying out some mangoes that somebody was serving up there, and we're at some pyramids that are just outside of Mexico City. It was about an hour away. But what was crazy here is that was our guide that you can see, Miguel. He was our tour guide. And it was on this pyramid tour that we told Miguel that we would be trying to summit Pico de Orizaba. And when we told him, he was like, guys, you cannot do that. And we were like, what do you mean? And he started showing us online articles. And apparently 2 weeks prior to us attempting to summit this volcano, unfortunately a couple people died on the volcano. And actually back in August, I think it was around 10 people that had unfortunately passed away on the volcano. So he was worried for us, and honestly, we didn't know about that, and it made us a little bit nervous. But what we realized was we're gonna be safe. We paid for a guide that was able to take us up. And if we saw that the conditions were too bad, too windy, we would make sure to be cautious. But the whole reason we went was to try to summit this volcano. So that's what we were gonna try to do. And so you could see a couple clips there just fueling up. We were trying to get extra carbs in us and just extra food in order to be fueled for this hike. And then also we started taking these altitude acclimatization pills. We had some just over the counter, and then David had a couple from when he did Kilimanjaro, a couple prescription pills that he was able to get. So next we went to Puebla. We just took a bus from Mexico City to Puebla. Super easy to do that. I think it was like $15 US. And it was about a 2-hour bus ride and just really comfortable, really easy. And then we explored Puebla for a little bit. So Puebla is also at 7,500 feet. So I think we spent 1 day here in Puebla. So again, that was helping us with the altitude a bit. And we loved Puebla. Didn't know what to expect, but this city was beautiful. It's an old colonial type of town. Amazing food. Just the buildings were these amazing pastel colors. The roads happened to be kind of shut down to traffic those days. So it was super walkable. Everywhere we walked was just crazy nice. And so we definitely enjoyed Puebla a lot. And we had considered doing our own acclimatization hike just outside of Puebla at 10,000 feet. But we were a little concerned about the logistics of that. So we just stayed at Puebla and just walked around, keeping the body a little bit loose. and making sure to eat a lot while we were in Puebla. So some ice cream, I think, is always great for, preparing for a marathon, a hike, just trying to justify it. But Puebla was great. So we spent a day there, fueled up for breakfast at the hotel. We wanted to have a good night of sleep, so we stayed at a nice hotel, got some breakfast in us, and then we waited for our shuttle with the tour company. We went with K-Loco Tours, so it was a third party. They picked us up in this shuttle, and they started to drive us toward Orizaba, and that's where this massive volcano is. So, this was probably about a 2-hour shuttle ride, which was really fun. There were some other people in the shuttle that were also trying to summit the volcano. That was our first view at the peak. We saw like a different mountain that we thought was Pico de Orizaba. And then when we actually saw it, we were like, holy hell, this thing is high up. So then we switched from the shuttle to a 4x4 truck and took like an hour of dirt roads to get to this base camp here. So this is base camp. And this is where our tour guides, I'll try to put the name on the screen of the actual tour group, but Cesar was the group leader. That is the refugee camp, so that red hut. And right when we got there, we pretty much settled in, got some food, and right here we did this acclimatization hike.
Oh, now you're getting me.
Acclimation hike. This is the day before the big day, except we wake up in 6 hours. So when we drove up to base camp, we were at about 14,000 feet, which is actually really high up there. Like that's the equivalent to Pikes Peak in the United States in Colorado. And I had gone up to Pikes Peak back in October, and even that altitude impacted me. So that acclimatization hike was a little bit tough, but then we woke up early to start this hike. And so I'm gonna kind of not talk for a second here so you can just hear some of the silence and the crunching on this glacier that we were on. So these clips kind of don't do it justice because we had to do a true headlamp alpine start. We woke up at midnight and started this hike at 1 a.m. with headlamps on. And when we were doing that, it took us probably about, 4 or so hours to get to the glacier on this volcano. And by the time we got there, that's when I started to be able to take some clips. You can start to see the sunrise, but it was pretty technical. We were on a rope team, so our guide Paco is in front of us. Paco is incredible. We wouldn't have been able to do this without him. And so he guided us up. We had crampons or like ice spikes on, and we had poles too. And here's where the sun started to rise. Beautiful view. That's the shadow of the volcano right there. And I'm just gonna pause again so you can kind of hear the silence out there. So as you can see, there's a couple other groups trying to summit alongside us, so that kind of built up some good camaraderie.
Paco! Hey. Thank you for helping us.
And then just us thanking Paco. This was insanely challenging. Actually, we had learned that nobody the day before was able to summit. We were at the end of the hiking season of this particular volcano because it was March. So a lot of times there's snow on the glacier that makes it a lot easier, but we just had ice. So it made it incredibly challenging. I think by the time we're getting toward the top here, we're 8 hours into this hike. Like the timeline on the clips just don't do it justice, but I was absolutely exhausted by the time we get to this point. And here you'll see that I think we reached the peak. So I'll pause.
Oh, we made it. To the peak. Nice.
So at the end of the clip there, you can see David being like, hey, that's not actually the summit. We're at a false summit. So I thought we were done. We only had like another 5 minutes up. But at this point, we're at 18,500 feet, feeling the altitude, super fatigued, didn't have a ton of food in me. I'd finished up my 3 liters of water by the time we got to the top. Just absolutely drained. So I was so excited to make it to the peak, especially because with the conditions, we didn't know if we'd be able to summit or not.
We made it. The actual Pico de Orizaba. Dang it! Oh my gosh! Jesus!
Congratulations. Thank you so much, Paco.
Nice, you're the best. You're the best.
This was amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Unreal.
So then, of course, David's tradition is doing summit push-ups. So we knocked out a couple of those here as a nice new tradition.
9, 10. Pico!
Yeah.
Rotate. And one more.
Oh man.
I was so exhausted, so grateful. I actually almost teared up here, but I didn't want Paco and David to see it. Just taking in this view, absolutely incredible and just on top of the world, pun intended, I guess.
Ben, what was your review in terms of things you've done?
Incredible. Top of the list.
All right, so after 8 hours going up, we knew we had about 5 hours going down. So at this point, we're still wearing the crampons or the ice spikes. We're on the rope team still, and it got insanely steep getting up to the peak. Like really on the glacier, it was 45 degrees up the entire time. And then at the last little push, it was even steeper than 45. So we knew it'd be super dangerous going down. So I actually didn't get any clips of us going down the glacier. And in my last YouTube video, I talked about how I'm dealing with runner's knee. I've had quite a bit of knee pain. And as we were descending, after about 30 minutes of going down, my knees started killing me. And it really was unfortunate. And so the whole time going up, I was thinking, what new gear do I need for my next time I do this? I love this. What other summits do I want to do? And then on the way going down with all of that knee pain, I was like, man, fuck this. I'm never going to do another one again. This is awful. I just couldn't wait to get past the glacier where I could take my crampons off. And so that's what you see us hiking right now. So once we got down there and we're able to just walk with just our boots and not the crampons, I started to feel so much better. The positivity came back and I realized how much I did love this experience. I probably shouldn't have done it with the knees being as sore as they were, but I'm super glad I did it. By the time we could see the red hut right there, I was stoked.
Oh, we made it back. We made it back. How do you feel?
Good.
I don't feel good. My
Tired.
knees are
I
fucked.
feel tired.
One of the most challenging, memorable, exciting, dangerous, amazing things I've ever done.
So yeah, of course, talking about the knees there, but just how good I felt. We made it back to camp. We got greeted by the guides. We texted Miguel, the tour guide that was concerned from us, telling him that we were safe because he asked us to. So that was super nice. Then we were back in Puebla in Mexico City to enjoy another hotel and just take it easy. Super sunburnt, so weren't feeling good the next day. Had a couple drinks out in Mexico City. Then made our way back to Charlotte where my girlfriend greeted us. It was super nice and just such an incredible trip. All right, so even though that was 12 and a half minutes of me talking through that experience, I feel like it just doesn't do it justice. I feel like I barely even got to talk or tell the half of what the story is. So I actually probably feel bad for my coworkers and friends because I probably tell the story in like a 30-minute version. But it was incredible. I highly recommend doing Pico de Orizaba or some sort of summit. So if you have any questions about logistics, how might you do Pico de Orizaba, what type of gear you might need, layers, clothes that you might need to wear, anything at all, leave it in the comments. Feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram. My name is just Cesarski on Instagram, so you can shoot me a message. Just incredible experience. I'm super thankful for my friend David because he literally planned the whole thing, so all I had to do was follow along with him. He promised me, he goes, Ben, nothing ever goes wrong on my trips, and he didn't jinx it. The trip honestly kind of went perfect other than a couple dead headlamps here and there. Oh, it was just amazing. Honestly, I can't wait to do another one. I'll be back to posting running content. My knees are feeling a little bit better, which I am thankful and grateful to say. So yeah, I will see you in the next one.